If you felt like your ability to play freely and expressively around the kit is at a roadblock, these Bonham triplet exercises just might be what sets you free. We're covering the 3 Bonham triplet variations that will definitely boost your coordination, and we'll talk about how to use these building blocks, these new skills, in real-world contexts of grooves and fills. If you're ready to expand your limb independence and your ability to play freely around the kit, this lesson is most definitely for you. You can do this. Let's dig in. Hey everyone, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. This is a channel all about giving you the most important core skills that really reap reward in your playing, that really get you results and transformation and help you become the musical drummer that you're called to be. And today this is exactly what we're doing, talking about linear playing and how to build our coordination. Very cool stuff. But hey, before we dig in, I want you to download my totally free PDF e-guide. It's called Know What to Practice, the 3-part daily routine for achieving growth in just 30 minutes a day. Really cool because it shows you how to fix your weak hand. It shows you how to build hand technique. We have a bunch of coordination exercises so you build your limb independence. And we even talk about listening stuff and building musicality. Most importantly, this is going to help you stop wasting time. It's going to get you out of a rut, show you exactly what to practice, what your next thing is, so that you're always progressing. You're never stuck. This is how you make progress. Let's get organized. Let's make progress in our practice sessions. This is your answer key. This is your shortcut, your cheat. So download the Know What to Practice 3-part daily practice routine guide. Totally free. All right, let's dive into today's lesson. If you've watched many of my videos, you've heard me say so many times, it's not what you practice, it's how you practice it. It's what approach you're taking, what you're thinking about and focusing on while you're practicing something. That's what matters most. And so that's why we really need to start today's lesson with talking about our approach. Like what can we do to really nail linear patterns? What approach do we need to be taking? And what angle can we come at here? So 3 tips for nailing linear patterns. Let's get into this before we actually get into the Bonham triplets, because I want you to be prepared. I want you to know what to look out for and how you need to be practicing this. Otherwise, you might get frustrated. So let's start with these 3 tips. So first off, a definition of linear. If you're new to the drums, if you're new to drumming terminology, when we say linear fills, linear patterns, linear grooves, we're talking about any kind of drum pattern where it's just one note at a time. Like if I play something like this, that's not linear because right hand and right foot are playing together. But if I play something like this, that would be linear. That's pretty slow and sparse and pretty simple, but there's never 2 limbs playing at the same time. So that's the definition of linear. So there's a lot of fills that are like that. If we play something like, or maybe the kick is filling in spaces between the hands and there's different patterns like this, those are linear fills. Now, the secret to mastering any kind of linear anything is practicing very, very slowly. I want that to be your biggest takeaway today, that this stuff has to be practiced slowly because a lot of linear patterns are not fast. Make sure that your image of linear fills is not like crazy fast stuff, because so many linear things that we play are actually very slow. I could play a fill like, that was not super fast. It could be even simpler than that. You know, just because it's linear doesn't mean it has to be fast. The more practical application of linear playing is actually in a much more slow context. So we want to be able to do that, and so that means we actually have to have the ability to play sparsely. And so getting into these tips. So our first tip, practice very slowly. Practice very slowly and be very patient with these things, because basically you have to get very comfortable and confident at hitting an instrument on your drum set, just that by itself without any aid from anything else. You know, if we're playing a groove like, we've got right hand to lock all of this into. But as soon as we take out right hand, our time really has to be solid, because there's no longer that safety net, that glue of the right hand. And so we have to get better at our sparse playing, and we have to get more precise. Basically, we have to build precision. So practice slowly. All that to say, practice slowly. Be patient with it. Practice these things slow. Number 2, and this is kind of the interesting thing, get comfortable practicing any pattern slowly. What's cool is that by getting really solid at playing anything slowly, that's actually going to help your linear playing. If you're playing a groove like this, If you're able to play something that slow, then that means you are really fine-tuning your abilities to play precisely and in time, to hit things in time, out there in space, kind of on their own when you're going that slow, which is exactly what we need to do to play linear stuff. And so if you're able to play slow songs well, get comfortable playing ballads, playing slow grooves, paying attention to the sounds you're getting from your drums, being loose and relaxed as you're moving around the kit, which of course comes down to grip, which we cover in so many videos. I'll link some below if you need to work on your grip. That helps a lot with this. If you're able to do all that, that's going to directly apply to the linear patterns. And so you can get very good at playing linear stuff simply by practicing the slow stuff, whether or not it's linear. Third tip, just practice playing sparse things, sparse grooves, sparse fills. You know, a lot of times by default, we sit down at a drum set and we're like, and we're trying to like blast into fast stuff. You know, try to make your default something really slow. Like when you go to the drum shop and you're like playing on the drum kits, sit down and like blow everybody away with shock with how slow of something you play. You sit down in the kit, you're like, if you play that in a drum shop, everybody's going to be so incredibly surprised that you didn't blast into some chops thing, because that's what everybody does at drum shops. So be the guy that doesn't do that. If you can make let that become your comfort zone. That's what I'm getting at. When you're sitting down, you're playing the kit for fun, you're just jamming out, practice playing really slow stuff like that with intentionally less notes. And when you go into a fill, rather than playing, instead of playing something quicker, play something like, it doesn't have to all be slow. You can throw in some notes, but have space there. The point is we got to get comfortable with space. And so if you practice linear patterns very slowly, you practice everything you've ever been practicing very slowly, and you practice playing sparsely. Those three things, those are all very closely related, as you can tell here. The theme is slow and not a lot of notes. That's going to help your linear playing so much in a kind of an indirect way, really. The point is to get very good at playing slow, individual notes, rather than just flurries of notes. Amateurs can play flurries of notes all around the kit without much issue. But professionals, they can play very few notes much better than the amateurs can play a whole bunch of notes. Maybe the guy or the girl that plays slowly very well and shocks everyone at the drum store. Okay, now that we've covered that, we're ready to get into the nitty-gritty here. We're ready to talk about the 3 Bonham triplet variations. Before we get going, download the PDF guide. Download the notation guide. I've got a specific notation guide that just has the notation of everything that we're going to talk about today, so you can download it, print it, take it to your practice room, whatever you want to do. And so go ahead and grab that if you want to follow along. I'll also put the notation on the screen. So traditionally, Bonham triplets are just the kick, tom, tom thing. And we've kind of, I label those Bonham triplets, but we're not talking about John Bonham today. We're not talking about Led Zeppelin songs. We're talking about that pattern of tom-tom kick or kick tom-tom or tom kick tom, whatever, it doesn't matter, and how we can use that to increase our linear playing, because that is a linear fill. If we sit here and we play, that's a linear pattern. And what's cool is depending on what context you put that in, you could actually create an entire fill out of it and go. And so those can be really cool, simple building blocks of a whole bunch of things you can play. So that's why they're so important. That's why I want you to practice these and get really good at them. So the first one, we're just going to talk about these in triplet context, like 1 olet, 2 olet, 3 olet, is just kick, tom, tom. So go very slow. I don't care how slow, as long as it's slow and as long as you can play it smoothly in time. If you have any of the, like if anything isn't totally solid, then focus on the smoothness, go super slow, boom, ba, boom, ba. And of course, as you get it more comfortable, you can go faster. But But typically this kind of pattern is not just easy to nail because you're having to teach your limbs to play on their own individually in time, naked in a way. You know, if you have other timekeeping going on, it provides that safety net. But suddenly there's no safety net. It's like each limb is just naked out there on its own and has to play precisely and in time, which is challenging if you've never done it before. So be patient, definitely take it easy on yourself. Know that you can do it. It's going to take some time. Go slowly and you'll begin to build a lot of coordination by doing this, because coordination is not just doing this crazy pattern over here and this crazy pattern here and this crazy pattern here. It's not playing a bunch of notes. Coordination is teaching each limb to play precisely and in time, exactly as you mean it to, and have full command over each limb. So yes, practicing stuff like practicing jazz stuff like that, that's a great way to build coordination. There are great methods out there for doing that, like Jim Chapin Advanced Techniques or Ted Reed Syncopation. Great things to practice. Every drummer should work through those. But coordination is not just that. Coordination is the ability to have full command and control over each limb individually, which kind of fits with our definition of linear playing. So it's very cool, very interesting to me how linear playing is very much something we can use to build coordination and to deepen our coordination if we already have a good level of it. So first Bonham triplet variation, kick, tom-tom, or kick left, right, kick left, right. Second one, all we're going to do is just shift these over, just start them in different places. So now let's start with left hand. So we'll just start and we'll go tom-tom, kick, tom-tom, kick. 1, oh, let, 2, oh, let. So left hand is on the beats, left hand is on the quarter notes. 1, oh, let, 2, oh, let, 3, oh, let, 4, oh, let. Then our third variation is to start with the right hand, which means the kick is going to be in the middle. So this one can be a little trickier because kick happens right in the middle of the triplet. Hand, foot, left, right foot, left, right foot, left. It might feel really weird, or it might actually feel kind of natural because right hand is on the beat. I've always thought this was actually an easier one because right hand is on the beat, but you do have to get your right foot precisely in time between those. But once right foot is locked in and feeling good, I think this feels very natural because right hand is on the beat. And so this is a great one to get into when you want right hand to be really what's leading it. In a way, this is a right hand lead Bonham triplet versus a kick drum right foot lead was the first one we did, and then we did a left hand lead. Now, what's also cool about these is that they don't always have to be in a triplet context. Like as you're getting these faster, you could play something like you could play them like that, or you could play something like and they could be super fast like that, and they could either be like 16ths or they could be triplets, but they don't have to be fast. Like I was saying earlier, these Bonham triplets, these linear, simple linear building blocks can also be very slow. It could be like this. That was just a hands, 2 hand notes and a footnote. Sometimes I might throw in a back and forth and quickly go, depending on how I want to shake it up. And so I'm literally just mixing the simple Bonham triplets in with just a simple back and forth singles between hand and foot. And that gives you an infinite number of possibilities. You could play something like you could even go into doubles like that. When you're going slow like that, the sky's the limit. There's no technical limit when you're going very slow. Practice things like that and just doing different random things going super slow. That's going to really help you build some solidity with this. But what you can also practice is just doing the Bonham triplets, but in a slow 16th context. So I'm going to play this with my left foot keeping time so you can hear the context. What I could do, instead of playing that would be them as 8th note triplets, we could do 16ths instead. Which which resets after 3 bars. If you play that for 3 measures, it then resets with the kick being at the beginning of the bar again. So I'll play that again slowly for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was 3 bars long, and of course you can keep going. And if you can do that with your left foot chicking like that, that is some great coordination practice. Technically, it's not truly linear if your left foot's playing along, but we're just using it for the utilitarian purpose of keeping time, helping us keep that beat in place, and building coordination. Let's build coordination. Now, you could also, just an added bonus here, if you're getting comfortable with that, you could also do these patterns with left foot instead of right. So you could play, and so on. And so it doesn't just have to be hands and right foot. You can also do these hands and left foot as an added challenge for sure. Or you could do both feet with the hands. So, no rules here. You can do whatever you want to do and experiment with it, but find ways to bring that left foot in, whether it's timekeeping, which is challenging, or just playing along with syncing up with the right foot. This is all well and good and fun, hopefully. Hopefully playing these as exercises is fun and very rewarding. But we also want to tie this into some real world stuff. So I want to just show you some fun examples, and actually a very common groove fill example of where these Bonham 3s will show up in a groove, not as triplets, but as 16ths, still in groupings of 3. I'll show you what I mean. So we could play all sorts of linear alternating hi-hat grooves. Like instead of playing that might be appropriate for the song, or we could play something like where that's actually linear, and anytime we're throwing in a kick note, I'm not hitting the hi-hat. That's a really cool style of playing, and by practicing these Bonham 3s, I'm starting to call them Bonham 3s because they're not always triplets. Remember that they're not always in a triplet context where it's triplet, triplet. Sometimes it's more like a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 if it's in a 16th context. So that's why we can call them Bonham 3s if they're not necessarily triplets all the time. So we could create a linear hi-hat kind of groove like this. There was a lot of back and forth there doing foot, hand, foot, hand. And of course, to reset it, we do a quick like that. So it's not always. If we kept it, in the 3s, we'd end up with something funny like that. But if we reset it, it works really well as a groove. And so you see how we're doing foot, hand. And so we're incorporating that Bonham 3 kind of pattern, and then it continues. And so there in the middle, it happens a few times. And so it actually repeats a few times there. When you look at this and you analyze and you think about what you're actually playing, you realize, oh, there's a lot of this foot, hand, foot, hand going on. And so this is just a direct application of those Bonham 3s in a 16th context. And of course, you can switch up that sticking. I was doing kick right, left every time. You can also do left, right. Or mix them both together. You can also take the same groove and actually apply it to the toms. So we could play something like same kick snare pattern, same notes that were from the hi-hat now on the toms. And because we're moving from one spot to two, of course that forces our sticking, and we can choose to do it. You could switch those back and forth and do whichever tom first that you want to. The way I've written it is boom, high, low, boom, boom, low, high, boom, high, boom, boom. It's hard to say. You get the idea. And so it doesn't really matter how you do it, but it's the same kind of thing where it's the same foot, hand, foot, boom, boom, hand, foot, hand, boom. And so we're taking those Bonham 3s and we're inserting them into a groove, and this shows up all the time. There are so many rock songs where there's like a, and it sounds really cool and almost double bass like when it's faster, but of course, practice it slowly. If you've been paying attention, you know, practice it slowly, get it clean, and then you can gradually go faster with it. But this is just a cool groove because of how musical it is and how it shows up in so many songs, and you can do it here, you can do it here. You can get creative with how you orchestrate it around the kit. You could even turn this into a fill. You could even turn this linear pattern into a fill and play something like, super common fill. There's so many rock songs where they go into like a halftime, happens so many times, and that's literally the same kind of linear pattern where we're going back and forth with like a foot, boom, bam, boom, bum, bum, boom, bum, bum, boom, bum. You could either play that exactly the way we played the groove version, or you can do both hands together like I just did. Of course, there's no rules here. I'm just throwing examples at you of ways you can apply this, ways you can use these back and forth kinds of patterns to create these linear fills. Now, technically, we've got two hands going on at once, so by the true definition of linear, it's not really linear, but we'll still call it linear because we're not playing our hands at the same time as our foot. It's constantly a back and forth. You can just go into variations from there and practice different variations. As you play this slowly, you begin to gain that coordination and that ability to really pay attention to each limb, and then that gives you the ability to then start to make things up and start branching out of the box. Just go slow. Go slow. If you try to go fast, it's going to get messy. Go really slow and just practice doing this very slowly and cleanly, and then from there you can get more confident with it, get really solid, precise, and then you can increase the tempo. Now, also just for fun, I've thrown in some wacky linear fills here. Now, there's a method book, an old classic method out there called four-way coordination. Very cool, very challenging. The first few exercises in a bunch of this book are things like basically the way the staff is, the way it's notated in the book. You have a line for right hand, line for left hand, line for right foot, line for left foot. You're even bringing in the left foot. And it's very challenging, very, very cool, and it encourages you to play these linear patterns very slowly. And that's that approach to building coordination. So I definitely encourage you to check out the book, Four-Way Coordination. You can find it on Amazon anywhere. You could get the ebook version of it. But I've thrown together three kind of random linear fill patterns here that basically are like exercises from there. And so you can also use these. I'm just going to play through these. They're totally random, but they're color-coded. I put them in the notation guide you can download. They're color-coded to make it a little bit easier to see, just because it's kind of confusing at times. The kick drum is there on the bottom space, kind of a peach-colored note. The snare is that pinkish red there in the middle. Dark purple is the floor tom. Light blue is the rack tom. So even if you're new to reading music, these are very simple and straightforward, and hopefully the color coding helps you out. There's also a couple different sticking options you can do there. I didn't write in the stickings. If you're going from rack tom to snare, it kind of makes sense to do right-left versus left-left. Otherwise, it's kind of nice to have left hand on the rack tom. If you're going from rack tom to floor tom, it makes sense to go left, right. So this is also a good opportunity to practice stickings that make sense and to test out different stickings. When you're going very slowly, it doesn't matter, and you can even practice these no left hand, like just right hand and foot, just left hand and foot, or as you're going faster, you want to start figuring out those stickings. So again, just making up stuff there, but you can see how as you're getting faster, you have to think more about what stickings you're doing. And so what I'd recommend you do is download the notation or print it out, write in, like pencil in the stickings you want to try, make a couple copies of it, and even write in different stickings. Practice doing it different ways. And then if you want to take it to the next level, add in left foot quarter note timekeeping as you're playing that. And again, go very slow. I was going 50 beats a minute there. These are 16th notes. I was going 50. That's really slow. No hurry to go fast here. Remember that it's the slow, methodical, precise practice that builds the coordination that we need here. We don't need to go fast yet. Yes, speed should be an ultimate goal. Why not? Why not? Let's go fast later. Just don't be in a hurry to get there. So I hope I've given you some really good reason to dig into simple linear patterns, simple linear building blocks like the Bonham triplets. And I hope that you've got some incentive to use it in the real world, use it in some grooves, use it in some fills. This is definitely some challenging stuff to practice. Be patient with it, because especially if you start tying in your left hand for time, your left foot for timekeeping, this becomes very much a coordination challenge. So be patient with it and know that this is a long-term endeavor. This is the kind of thing that's going to reap a lot of reward in your playing long-term. Your ability to be well coordinated, to be able to play sparsely well, to play slowly well, and to create interesting, unique fills. This is a great way to be very musical and create cool kinds of fills that you aren't able to do in a normal non-linear context. So have fun practicing this. Reach out if you have any questions. Be patient with yourself, practice it slowly, but know that you can do this. Know that you can do this. It may be hard, but you are fully capable of doing this when you take it to the practice room and you work on it step by step. So, hey, before you go, I want to make sure you download my 3-part daily practice routine I talked about earlier. This guide is full of coordination stuff. So I gave you a lot of coordination things to work on today, but in the guide, we've got all sorts of other approaches on top of this today to build coordination, because there's a lot of different roads you can take to really build 4-way coordination. So if you're needing to fix your weak hand, increase your time, your ability to play fluidly, your ability to navigate around the kit, and just your ability to have full, complete 4-way limb independence, the 3-part practice guide is for you. How to practice well and reach your goals, short-term and long-term, in 30 minutes a day. Get organized, stay out of a rut. Your resource for really staying on track, making sure that you're progressing and becoming the drummer that you are made to be. So go download that. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. Glad you hung out with me today. Hope that this stuff really helps you out. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Have a great week. I will see you on the next video. Stay non-glamorous.